Hello viewers, this is AKWasp and welcome to part 4 of my Fight Kiln guide. Part 4 of the guide covers waves 21 through 30, which is starts off being predominantly melee monsters, and then a various mix of monsters come in, including rangers and majors, and even 8 armadillos, which is the largest congregation of armadillos at any point during the Fight Kiln. As you have probably noticed if you're watching this as part of my Fight Kiln guide playlist, part 4 is progressively harder from the previous quarters of the Fight Kiln, and it just keeps getting harder from here. In my opinion, this is actually the hardest part, especially waves 25 and 26 if not done properly. But anyways, let's just get right into it. We're going to be using our mage setup, and for economics sake, we can use the polypore staff as opposed to the what's it called, the Storm of Armadillo, because it's pretty a lot cheaper to use. If you are just using Storm of Armadillo all the way through, that's a perfectly valid option too. Anyways, at the beginning of wave 21, you just get a bunch of these. I believe there's 12 of these little melee guys, and just stand somewhere to the north and let them come to you slowly while you're protecting against them. And then, yeah, just protect against melee and let them congregate. Preferably wait a bit longer than I did in this video so that they all gang up on you, and then stand and then just trap them all on the other side of this pretty big wall. It's pretty easy to trap them all, just like this. And then you just mage them from, you can shut off your prayer. If you are low on health and you're using curses, you can use soul split. Otherwise, just mage them, and this takes quite a long time actually. It's a bit annoying, and for the next several waves you'll actually see quite a bit of these sort of annoying slow what's it called, you know, melee safe spots. So I'll fast forward through the rest of this and resume at wave 22. While this is fast forwarding, I'll take this opportunity to just briefly explain that this is actually the footage you'll see on screen is kind of switches back and forth between two different what's it called, attempts, or not attempts, but successful kilns of mine that were both using Beast of Burdens. So disregard the actual items in the setup, just watch what I'm equipping, because the items change and they're not entirely consistent. And if you don't know what you're bringing, just make sure you're using my recommendations from the part 1 of my Fight Kiln guide, which is the equipment and inventory setup. And this again is intended for novice intermediate fight kilners who are not very experienced and therefore bringing a Beast of Burden along. Obviously, especially sometime like this, having a Steel Titan or other advanced combat familiar would be a lot, you know, beneficial for faster kills. Alright, so wave 22, once again, you just want to congregate all the meleeers on you. There's only going to be melee monsters this wave. There's also different sized melee monsters, but you just basically want to get them all on you. This particular spot isn't, you know, the only one you have to get, but this is a very good one if you run all the way north. The little guys get stuck behind the medium guys, and the big guy gets stuck behind them as well. So you just stand here, and if you stand here, you don't have to pray melee, because they're all stuck around safe spots. But if you wanted to, you could just, you know, pray melee instead. Again, as with previous waves, and all the monsters in the Fight Kiln, the monsters can hit through prayer, not at full strength, but at a significantly reduced strength, which is better to just safe spot them for that reason, because then they don't hit you at all, and you're conserving your prayer potions. Fast forwarding again. Good time to note that waves 24, 26, 28, and 30 are the waves when you want to pick up the crystals at the beginning. These correspond to the Constitution, Invulnerability, Restoration, and Magic crystals. If you are low on inventory space, which you shouldn't be because by now you should have used some of your potions, obviously, the Constitution one is the one I find to be least helpful. Wave 23 is basically a repeat of Wave 22. Basically the exact same monsters are spawning, just more of the, so you got 2 of the large ones, what I call teddy bears, as opposed to 2 of the medium ones. So you just bring them back down to the same spot, and I'll fast forward because there's nothing new or interesting in here. Just keep maging them. If you want, you could use dread nips on them. It makes it a bit faster, but totally not necessary. The dread nips don't really hit as well as magic spells do anyways. Not too much to talk about. I'll just fast forward. As you can see, unlike the previous quarter where everything was real slow but you were still taking damage from the majors because you're ranging, this is just real slow and you're not taking any damage. So I guess it's nicer because you're not taking damage, but it's all that more boring. Alright, so wave 24, you want to run to the middle, pick up that Constitution Crystal, assuming you want it, and then run all the way to the northwest corner. Stay, and go ahead and blitz this ranger. And by blitz, I'm literally meaning just hit him with everything you got as fast as possible, so that you can kill him as quickly as possible. Preferably, he'll be down and dead before the meleeers can get on you. That way you can activate your melee prayer, so you're completely protected from the ranger with, well, not completely because he can still hit with melee, but so that you're protected from him with your range prayer, and then go ahead and lure the meleeers around any safe spot. This is an alternative safe spot to the one which I've showed you for the last couple waves. Again, anywhere where there's a large, rock line or protrusion, whatever you want to call it, it's pretty easy to lure, especially the melee monsters around it. Now, something that was ranged or magically attacking you could easily hit over this safe spot. So, but the meleeers have to be within melee distance to hit you. So once again, just go ahead and take them out with mage because they're pretty easy to do. And I'll fast forward through it and just let you know that waves 25 and 26 are coming up, and I consider this to be 2 of the harder waves. So pay attention for 25 and 26. For wave 25, there will be a magical cat that spawns all the way in the southeast. So you want to stay to the northeast so that he gets stuck behind the ridgeline and can't hit you. Go ahead and turn on your protect from range and blitz this first ranger. Get him down as fast as possible. And there will actually be a second ranger coming over from the west, and also a meleeer coming into your combat area. So what you want to do, or what I recommend doing anyway, is activating your protect from melee and tanking the ranger. So put on your whatever you're using, your best gear for tanking range attacks. It may be bandos if you have bandos, or if you opted not to bring bandos and only armadillo, go ahead and use your armadillo and just range the ranger, or you could use the stone of armadillo. Either way is relatively effective. I would recommend using the range attack because then you have better range defense armor on when you're using it, as opposed to if you had thrown on your Ganodermic, has basically no ranged defense. Anyways, this point you may be tempted to run around the ridge and safe spot this meleeer. Don't do it because then you will untrap or release the 2 monsters which are stuck to the south right now. So just be patient, take those down, switch back over to your archer gear or your ranger gear, basically your armadillo and your crossbow, and activate your protect from melee prayer. I kept clicking over there, but there is no crystal at the beginning of wave 25. It's at the beginning of the next wave. So anyways, yeah, go ahead and activate your range gear, whatever that may be, armadillo, Zayrite bow, whatever. Protect from magic and run along the easternmost wall until you are in range of the magical creature. Now, you should definitely be able to reach him with a ranged combat style. You shouldn't need the rapid combat style. You shouldn't need long range, but if for whatever reason you do, you really shouldn't. But if you had to, you go ahead and use it. The disadvantage here is that you can't really use dread nips effectively because then the melee monster will attack you. So just go ahead and take down this magical cat. It's a bit slow, but this is the most painless way to possibly do this wave. And then for wave 26, we're going to be using a trick. So it's actually the footsteps you take in wave 26 are pretty interesting. If you follow them right, you won't take much damage at all. If you follow them wrong, wave 26 is actually a viable time to use the invulnerability crystal if you're not using the safe spots correctly, because 26 has a so as you just saw here on 25, there were meleeers, big meleeers, the big rangers, and the big magical attack creatures. And in wave 26, it's the same thing again, except you have 2 magical attacking cat creatures. So it's particularly unpleasant. And here we go, wave 26. If you oh, this wasn't the best footage, but anyways, if you, I'll see if I can pull it up. Anyways, you stand north of the center safe spot, or the center ridgeline, and then you basically walk directly north of the rock protrusion, and that way there are 2 magical cat creatures that are trapped all the way to the south, and they can't get to you. So you go ahead and you take out the rangers with a range combat style. That doesn't necessarily mean range. You could use Star of Armadillo, but again, I recommend using range because that has a better defense. But you actually will be praying against range, so it doesn't really matter too much. If you're just using range all around, it's a bit convenient because you'll be using it immediately afterwards to take out the magical cat. And as you can clearly see, these 2 meleeers are, even though really close to you, they're both stuck behind a rock, and you're just shooting around, like through them, around them, whatever you want to call it, right at the magical cat, and completely safe from them. So you don't even need to activate protect from melee at any point during this wave. You could if you're a bit paranoid, but totally unnecessary. I'll go ahead and mage these down, and once they're dead, we'll go on to wave 27, which is basically in wave 27 there'll be a magical cat spawning in the northeast, yes, the northeast corner, and also a ranger spawning in the northwest corner, and then meleeers everywhere else. So what you want to do is you want to blitz that ranger. Again, blitzing meaning, you know, attacking him with everything you've got while hugging the north wall, or hugging within 3 spaces of the north wall. That way the magical cat gets stuck. You may be tempted at this point to go ahead and, you know, try and lure these, because you're seeing all these melee attackers. You're thinking, well, why don't I just go behind a safe spot and lure them so that I don't have to pray melee. Well, it's not really gonna hurt you much to waste a few prayer points here and keep the magical cat waiting for you. He's over in the northeast corner. So just go ahead and tank these out, and by tank I mean pray against them, and then you will go ahead and switch on to your protect from magical prayer, and then you will just range down the cat, and you will be in enough, unlike previous waves or whatever, you will actually be able to use the Dreadnips on them to speed up the kill a bit faster. In case I haven't mentioned this particular segment, I definitely have in previous segments. If you're using the prayers, you can use Rigor and Augury to get faster kills, which also boosts your defense a little bit, but mostly boosts your damage when you're attacking with the ranged or magical combat styles. And I particularly recommend activating Rigor anytime that you're ranging, because it does speed up the kills appreciably, and it, you know, it saves you ultimately health and prayer points because you're praying for a shorter period of time. So I definitely recommend using that. You also may notice that in this particular footage, I'm using the Farseer Kite Shield instead of the Eagle Eye Kite Shield. That's simply because on this strip I didn't bother bringing the Eagle Eye Kite Shield or any Bando's armor. You will find that that is not really compulsory gear or useful gear even later on when you get to a more advanced skill level. When you're using Steel Titan stuff, you're not going to be wanting to bring the Eagle Eye Kite Shield or Bando's armor just because they're a waste of inventory space. And anyways, that's kind of teasing ahead, but that'll be covered in much more detail in part 6. Anyway, so now we get over here to wave 28. A lot of people hate wave 28 because this is when 8 armadillos spawn, but they're really not that bad. Basically, they spawn. You want to make sure you're activating your protect from melee magic prayer, because that magical cat spawns, and that's a big pain. Basically, you ran north just like that, get those 2 armadillos stuck, and then you're pretty much safe. Now what you want is you want the magical cat to get closer, and right now it's too far away. So if you are in a situation such as this, just wait it out. Run all the way to the corner and wait for that second armadillo to just move. Eventually, because this is outside of its patrol area, eventually it'll move to the south. Not yet, just gotta keep waiting. Eventually it'll move south far enough that you'll be able to move back to the west, and the magical cat will get closer to the ridge line, and then you will be able to dispense with him. So basically, it sometimes can take a long time. Like here, it just took quite a while to get to that point, but now it's gone, and you can bring the magical cat closer to you by walking further east, and then just go ahead and range him. And then once he's down, you don't have to worry about protection prayers, so you don't use any more prayer points during this part of the wave. And as you can see, even though there's 8 armadillos on the screen, there's only one that's actually within you. That's because they all patrol certain sections of the screen. So if you're not within a patrol zone of an armadillo, it won't come to you. Like for right now, none of the ones in the south are even, they could care less that you're in the game. They're just doing their own thing. This armadillo is the only one who's upset that you're in his area, and he's stuck on the other side of the rock. So once you get rid of the cat, you just take your prayer off, and you can use your pickaxe or adze, whichever you're using, and use the flinch method to get the armor knocked off of them. Alternatively, if you have a combat familiar, which you wouldn't at this point, but later on you may have a combat familiar, and that's much faster. Okay, so just recapping the flinch method again, basically hit them once and then step away, wait for the health bar to disappear, and then hit them once and step away. Repeat this until the armor breaks off. With this method, you will take 0 damage if you're doing it right. And then once the armor breaks off, you just mage them or range them, preferably mage them from a distance. And if you want, you could soul split if you're using curses, and that is the easiest way to take them out. You could also be using dread nips. I'll fast forward this part because it's a bit slow. Dread nips and combat familiars both hit directly through the armor. If you're using dread nips or combat familiars, you don't even need to bring a pickaxe with you, which is a real nice feature. This particular armadillo can be a bit tricky. You might want to dance him, as I believe I do in this clip. But the dread nips can just take out the armadillos on their own, too. Alright, so that particular armadillo can be quite stubborn, but as you can see, he can be taken out without taking any damage. There may be better ways to take him out, but this is definitely one way that works pretty well. Anyways, you run over to this rock and you'll see that, hey, all the other armadillos are totally not aggressive on you. So run into their patrol area to the south and come around it this way, and you'll actually see that you're completely safe. So go ahead and flinch this armadillo. It's a good opportunity to actually do a double flinch so that you're going a bit faster. And basically, yeah, just flinch them down to knock out their armor. You could use dread nips to speed it up. You may want to be a bit more cautious than I was right there. But yeah, just take off the armor and then go ahead and mage them. And that is how you easily take down wave 28. A lot of people really hate wave 28. If you use this method, it's not necessarily the fastest method, but it's completely painless. And also, preferably, sometimes don't get your dread nip stuck like I just did in this particular example. But that's alright, because the armor was down anyway, so you wouldn't have done as much as if the armor was up. Anyways, I'll fast forward this point over to wave 29 because you can pretty much see that it's relatively easy to take down these armadillos at this point if you're using this method. So once you've completed wave 28, you're pretty much done with the hard waves of this quarter. And basically wave 29 is once again only melee monsters. There's 6 of these big teddy bear type creatures, and they're incredibly easy to take down. So I'm not even going to stop fast forwarding. Basically you just lure them all behind any safe spot. The one to the east is probably the easiest one to use, and you just go ahead and you mage them down from there. And actually I will advertise this as a good opportunity to go ahead and use the a restroom or take a break or log out or whatever at this wave. If you didn't know, when you log out during the Fight Kiln, when you log back in, you start at the beginning of the last wave that you didn't complete. So say you ran over to the safe spot and then logged out. When you log back in, you would start at the beginning of wave 29, which is definitely an ideal time to restart after taking a break, because it's right before the all the remaining Jads, which is what, 5 Jads coming up. And yeah, so it's a good time to take a break or use the restroom or whatever you may need. And then yeah, it's just all a big safe spot. And then you want to make sure you position yourself properly for wave 30, which will be 3 melee teddy bears like this again, and 1 Jad. And basically where you want to stand is the northeastern spot of the center safe spot. And yeah, anyways, so you just take this, make sure you're standing in the right spot, which is the northeastern spot of this center safe spot, and you just go ahead and protect from melee and take down the teddy bears using either Polypore Staff or Staff of or Storm of Armadillo, whichever one you prefer. This is an excellent time to use the Mage Crystal, because you'll just absolutely tear through all the monsters, including Jad. And it obviously don't use it unless your overload just ended, but if you're thinking about re-overloading, just go ahead and use the Mage Crystal, because this is an ideal time to use it. And the remainder of that magical boost, which if you're at 99 magic, it'll take you to 148 magic, I believe, which just incredibly increases your damage output, or max hit potential, or average hit potential, really. And that actually carries over for the next several waves. And you can just, even though there might be rangers coming up, you can just totally use Storm of Armadillo against them and shred through them in moments. So this is a great time to use the Magic Crystal. Anyways, I hope everybody enjoyed this section of the Fight Kiln guide. To watch the entire playlist, check out the entire playlist on my channel. It basically is a 6-part or a 6-episode series that goes through each quarter of the Fight Kiln, wave by wave in detail, just like this guide was, with the first episode being the equipment and inventory setup, and the final episode being the advanced onyx farming guide using steel titans to basically complete the Fight Kiln much faster and possibly more more efficiently, because it's faster. So go ahead and check that out, and I hope you enjoyed the guide, and everybody have an excellent day.